calling to us how the no more landed mountain. And wild was the surge on the dark rolling sea. I met about daybreak upon the young lassie, who asked me the road and the miles to Dundee. And said, I'm a young lassie, I cannot well tell you the road and the distance I cannot well see. But if you permit me, I will go along with you. I'll walk you the road and the miles to Dundee.
Hey, how's it going? Welcome to Tell You What, the podcast, where we talk with musicians about songwriting and music making. We have a fun episode for you today. Dani, Aubert, and Ian George, who make up the Oregon-based contemporary folk duo Fellow Pynins, are our guests. I really enjoy getting to do in-person interviews. There have been fewer of these in the last couple of years. I was down in Kansas City in May for the Folk Alliance International Conference, which is an annual music industry gathering that brings together folk and roots musicians from all over the world. The artists play official showcase sets during the afternoons and early evenings for audiences of festival and venue bookers, radio DJs, agents, record labels, the occasional podcaster, and their fellow musicians. And then, later in the evening, several floors of the hotel are taken over by industry folks who host a series of shorter sets by the various artists, 15 to 20 minutes at a crack. So there are, at any one time, 30 or so different artists playing in all these hotel suites. And folks are wandering the halls, popping in and out of the rooms, discovering amazing new music. This goes on until the wee hours. Music is scheduled and playing until 3 a.m. or so. It is a little nuts. This was my first time at the FAI conference, and I had an absolute blast. So the very first set I saw at one of these late-night shows was this wonderful duo, Fellow Pynins. They are a young couple who live off-grid in tiny homes with their 2 children near Ashland, Oregon. They've spent a lot of time over the last few years traveling through Ireland, Scotland, and England with their kids, playing music and discovering traditional songs taught to them by local folks they met along the way. I was captivated by their short set, and they mentioned that their songs all had great stories behind them, but they didn't have time in the allotted 15 minutes to tell them. So I went up afterwards and asked about the story behind one of the songs they had played, the Galway Shawl. When they had played it, Dani had held her phone up to the microphone, while a recording played of a woman who sang the first part of the song. Dani then joined in, singing harmonies with the recording, and eventually singing the rest of the song herself. The way they found this song and got the recording is a great story. You will hear them tell it themselves in our conversation. So I had a grand time all weekend at the conference, and I was not actually planning on conducting any interviews while I was there. I prefer to spend a fair amount of time preparing for interviews by doing a deep dive into the music of my guests, and I had not done much of this for any of the artists before going to Kansas City. So there I sat on Saturday afternoon in the lobby of the hotel doing some work on my laptop when I saw Ian and Dani, whose set I had really enjoyed a few nights before, walk through the lobby. In that moment, I was struck with the notion that I should interview them. As I saw them walk out of the hotel, I looked up their email address, sent them a message, and a few hours later we were sitting in my hotel room having the following conversation. I'm so glad I acted on my impulse. It was a great chat, and I made 2 great new friends in the process. So Dani and Ian, Fellow Pynins, recently released a wonderful album, Lady Mondegreen, that is made up of traditional songs they collected on their travels, recordings that feature their arrangements and interpretations of these songs. There are some absolutely beautiful tunes here, certainly worth your time to check them out. As I said, this was a fun conversation, and I encourage you to stick with it to the end. You might notice I do not include a portion of the song Pretty Polly in there when we discuss it. That is because I got Ian and Dani to play the entire song live in the hotel room there at the end of the episode. It sounds great. So let's get to it. Here is our Tell You What discussion with Ian and Dani from Fellow Pynins.
No, it's only to show her the road to Dundee.
All right. Dani, Aubert, and Ian George, fellow Pynins. Welcome to Tell You What, the podcast.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks for being here today. Let's set the scene. We are here in Kansas City, Missouri at the Folk Alliance International Conference. We're here in the Tell You What satellite recording studio. Opulent digs we have built for you here, right?
It's lovely.
We're overlooking the dancing waters, and I don't know if you knew this, the international industrial headquarters of the Hallmark Greeting Card Company is across the street. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I think I was in there. I think they have a cool, do-it-yourself room for kids.
I think some of the songwriters here could get a side gig writing some greetings for the greeting card industry.
That's a brilliant
It's a
idea.
giant complex.
If they had their wits about them, they'd set up a booth here.
They would.
Give free pens out.
So this is my first Folk Alliance conference. I think you two have been here before. Let's set that scene a little bit. This thing is a little bit crazy.
Yeah.
We are up in the middle of the night, right? There are sets and music being played. There are official showcases in like conference rooms. Then at night, we race around the hallways to hotel rooms, right?
Yeah.
To the wee hours. I am not a young man. I think that's clear. I am usually one of the older people at a music event that I go to. I am definitely not the oldest person here. And these older folk people are killing me. They are up till 2 and 3 in the morning, right?
Yeah.
At these things.
I know. They've
So
probably been here
attentive,
every year.
watching everything.
So tell us about how you feel about this event, and you've come back, so obviously you like it here.
Yeah. This is our second time. The first time we were here was with an older band we were in. We called it a 7-piece contemporary folk orchestra.
Okay.
Yeah. It was quite a thing to be in a band with 7 people. Yeah, my memories of it back then, that was, 6 years ago?
Okay.
Way more people.
Yeah.
I remember the hallways stuffed at night for the private showcases.
Yeah.
Like, constantly just moving around groups of people. And it's not the case as much this year. I mean, we probably are at half capacity or less this year. But, yeah, I think my perspective on this place is a community builder more than anything. I mean, we've met so many friends here and people we stay in touch with in so many ways. And, of course, we're here to get gigs, too.
Right.
Like,
It's an industry event.
for sure. Like, that's just the honest response. Is we're here to further our careers in music.
Yeah.
And at the same time, have a lot of fun.
Yeah, the night showcases are just so fun. Last night I saw so much music that I didn't even know existed.
Yeah.
And just walking down the hallway and popping my head in the door and what's that? And whatever drew me in is just what I went in to see. And it's so fun. I've just been feeling so much joy being here.
And we see 15-minute, 20-minute sets, right?
Yeah.
For those of us with attention problems, it's kind of a perfect setup, right? to jump from one thing to another.
Yeah,
It is.
You get to
Discover.
dabble.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of for the artist. It's kind of like just do with what you have. You're usually just thrust onto a 15, 25-minute set. The sound's wonky.
I discovered you two the other night. Not randomly, I'd heard your music before, but I saw your set, and you were thrust into a situation there. There was very loud music coming from the room next door. There was a woman in the small crowd requesting that the doors be closed and certain things happened during your set.
And the host didn't want to close the doors.
But you made do, and it was a great set.
We thought it was going to be acoustic, and then realized it was going to be amplified right as we're going on, and we just went for it. And but we did our best, and that's all you can do.
That seems like how they all are here. The private and the official showcases. All the people I talked to, their official showcase was they get this small amount of time to sound check. They're not. Nothing's perfect sonically.
Right.
No, you can't hear very well on stage because you just don't have time. But it's all about just making it work.
Yeah, and the vibe here I found amazing. That the friendliness and openness of everyone here to meeting people and accepting all the different kinds of music has been really heartwarming for me.
I agree.
All right, let's go back in time a little bit, talk about your backgrounds, and maybe specifically like how you found your ways to the kind of music you're playing now. Not many people your age are pursuing this kind of music, so how did you end up on this path?
It's a great question.
Yeah, Ian and I have somewhat of a similar story.
Okay.
And so I didn't grow up playing folk music, and neither did Ian. We didn't grow up in musical families, although Ian's family they were music appreciators.
Right.
So he was exposed to a lot of music.
It's like my dad's religion.
Yes.
I would say is music.
Yeah. Beatles.
Yeah, Marvin Gaye,
Yeah.
Nice.
Miles Davis, Coltrane.
Yeah. And I
Classics.
had one CD growing up in
What
my
was it?
family's household, and it was a Motown Greatest Hits.
You could do worse than that.
Exactly. I was like, cool. If that was it, that was it.
Yeah.
You know, radio was pretty good in the 90s.
Sure.
So, you know, I had that. So radio and, you know.
Something happened.
Yeah, I was in choir
Okay.
all throughout. Church choir all the way, high school, did all the choir things. And then I was in college. I was exposed to people jamming a lot, improvising. I was just made friends with all the musical, you know, people studying music.
Okay.
And so there was a lot of jamming happening, and I kind of got into starting to be feeling confident playing a little bit. And I mostly just did things. I would improvise on the piano. I didn't know anything.
Okay.
And that was all the way through college. And there was a certain point where I decided I wanted to play guitar.
So graduating college, you didn't feel you had proficiency in any instrument yet?
No.
Okay.
Not at all. I felt pretty confident singing.
Yeah.
And but I started to get exposed to folk music through the Grateful Dead.
There you go.
And I loved the Grateful Dead all through high school. And I started finding Jerry Garcia's other projects, like Olden and the Way, and his stuff with David Grisman, and with John Kahn, these like I collected bootlegs.
Mm-hmm.
And so these little rare bootlegs, and the very acoustic ones were the ones I loved the most. And I started going, those were my pathways. In the internet, I wasn't really on the internet during that time. I wasn't Googling, trying to find what's this. It was all just from like bootleg tapes, talking to people. I would go to the music store and just look. And, you know, I found Alison Krauss that was just at the music shop, and I was just seeking. I had no idea what I was looking for. I didn't have anyone in my life that could help guide me in that way. I was just like, felt like I was looking for folk music, but I didn't know what I was looking for.
You didn't know what it was.
I had no idea. Yeah, and when I met Ian, I was still in that path of looking for folk music.
But you had picked up the guitar by this point.
I had started playing guitar, and then I transitioned to banjo because I was at a music shop looking to buy a guitar and ended up buying a banjo instead.
By accident?
Yeah, pretty much. I pulled it off the wall, started playing it, and the music store owner said, "Hey, how long you been playing banjo for?"
Oh, that's good.
I said, "This is the first time I ever touched one." And he goes, "You better buy that banjo." And I did, and I never played guitar after that.
You still don't play guitar?
Not really.
Yeah.
I'd like to. I'd like to get back into it.
Play a little guitar.
A little bit.
Well-
I do at home on my couch.
I'm going to take this opportunity to ask you what a bouzouki is.
Yeah,
if I pronounced that properly.
Ian and I both play bouzouki, and I kind of describe it as like the one that I play, like a big mandolin.
Okay.
Like some people call it an octomandolin.
Right.
The one I play is one that our friend built.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like it's got a guitar body, but the bouzouki originally is a Greek instrument. And then,
Yes.
was it Donald Lunny
Donald Lennon.
that brought the Irish or the Greek bouzouki to Ireland, and then that got infused into Irish music.
Okay.
And so the Irish bouzouki was really what I was exposed to, and the stuff that Donald Lunny would do with Andy Irvine and Paul Brady and that whole world of music. And that was how I was drawn into wanting to play bouzouki.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you ever listened to that album? Andy
Irvine
and Paul Brady's
No.
1976 release.
Suppose I should.
It
is
top 5 favorite albums of all time.
for both of us.
Wow.
And for people that know of this album, it exists as
Yeah.
like a holy
The gold.
It's a grail.
recording.
The gold.
It's some perfect mixture of
Time.
just musical prowess
Yeah.
and arrangements and just sheer talent in all these 4 musicians on it. It's just absolutely stunning.
Well, I guess I'm going to be looking into that.
Yeah.
All right. We've heard part of your story, Dani.
Yeah.
And let's go back to how you found your way.
So, folk music for me is similar. I started playing music when I was 17. And I almost didn't start because I thought I missed the ball. I thought it was too late.
Yes.
Being 17, I thought the world was done when I hit my 30s, right?
Yes.
So I was like, all my friends had been playing for years, but I got a Stratocaster, or a knockoff Stratocaster, for my birthday, my parents, when I was 17. And I just wanted to play Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, the Beatles,
right,
Grateful Dead. I was really into music from that era. And I would just learn solos. And through the Grateful Dead, I found the side projects, Old and In the Way. Literally, Pizza Tapes,
yeah,
Tony Rice,
yeah,
Grisman, John Kahn. That was my doorway into folk music. And then,
I mean, I'm sure it's a common story among Grateful
is.
Dead fans, but it's interesting that you both have that.
Yeah, but that was my way in, and through it just cracked it open for me, and then I got really into, when I was a teenager, jamgrass.
Right.
I loved Railroad Earth and Yonder Mountain String Band.
Yeah.
And I would say Jeff Austin, the mandolin player from Yonder Mountain, is what inspired me to play the mandolin. So after a year of playing electric guitar, playing at bonfires with my friends, I was like, everyone plays guitar. There's 6 guitars here. I need to do something else.
Right.
So I transitioned to the mandolin, moved out to Eugene when I was 18, and was in a slew of bluegrass bands as a mandolin player. And with the big band, we were in this 7-piece band. I was predominantly a mandolin player. I played bouzouki as well. But yeah, the guitar started coming back in for me like 5 years ago. But that was my way in, was through Jerry into kind of jam grass, and then into pretty much every form of folk music.
What about songwriting? When did that kind of come into it, and how?
Yeah, I think when I started playing music, I started writing songs immediately.
Yeah.
It kind of happened
simultaneously. Were you always
simultaneously.
singing too?
I started singing about a year into playing music.
Yeah.
I was surrounded by some friends that were really good musicians as a senior in high school. And we would all go out into the Minnesota forest and make bonfires and get wasted and play.
And sing.
Sing. We'd sing. I mean, really, that's what we did. Play Grateful Dead tunes. And it was just so around me, so I thought I should.
So this was Minnesota.
Yeah, Minnesota.
And Dani?
Pennsylvania.
Okay. But you met in the Northwest.
We met in Oregon.
Yeah.
Okay. After you met, how long did it take you to figure out that you both had this similar musical story?
Oh, probably right away.
Yeah.
Probably.
We met at a music gathering, a music gathering in a house. Dani was passing through town. There was this Welsh woman that was always inviting me to come to her Celtic song circles.
Yes.
She had invited me for probably a year, and I never went. But finally, one week, I went.
A Kaylee.
It was like a Kaylee.
Yes.
Yeah, there was drink and fire, and we just sat in a circle, actually, and exchanged traditional songs.
Yeah.
And I was 20 at the time. I didn't have much. Probably played the 3 that I knew. Dani was passing through town and was there. We sat and played all night. We didn't exchange a single word that night. We only played. We gave a hug and left. Didn't exchange contact. She went to California the next day.
Oh, wow.
And she passed through 2 more times in the following couple months. And every time she passed through town, we intersected.
We ran into each other.
It was meant to be.
It really was.
Beautiful story.
Yeah, and on the 3rd time, we finally exchanged contacts, and then we spent a month. Her 3rd time passing through, I convinced her to stay. She kind of shacked up with me, and we didn't leave each other's side for 30 days.
Is there a song that is about this?
She wrote a song.
Okay.
She wrote a couple of them. Actually, some great ones that kind of are hidden.
All right, now we're going to jump ahead because we're here to talk about this project you embarked on that led to this album that was released yesterday. Congratulations, by the way, Lady Mondegreen. Did I get that right? So I'm going to do a short version of the story, and then we're going to dig in.
Great.
Okay. You two and your children, right?
Yep.
Two children embarked on a 10-month adventure of song collecting, traveling and living in a van throughout Europe, the UK, and Ireland.
Yeah.
Right so far? Finding traditional songs that you then interpreted and ultimately recorded for this project that became this album.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
That is the short version of what you did. There's a lot to dig into here, right?
There is.
Let's start at the beginning. How do you, as a young family, come up with this somewhat audacious plan?
Yeah.
What was the germ of the idea? And at what point did you say, oh, I think we can actually do this?
I think we have a tendency to be very adventurous.
Okay.
And
obviously.
Sometimes we're very much the kind of people that say we're going to do something and we do it.
Yeah.
And sometimes we get ourselves in positions where we're like, oh, shit, this was a lot.
Yeah.
But we're already in Europe.
Really ambitious.
And we're just going to go for it. I mean, the original plan was to move to Scotland, Wales, or England.
Okay.
When this old band of ours, Patchy Sanders, broke up, we were kind of road dogs. We were touring all the time. Our life plan,
With that band.
with that band, and our life being planned out a year in advance all the time. All of a sudden, our docket was empty, and we could do anything. And we thought, let's leave this small town in Oregon and move to Europe and do something different and connect with the traditional music over there that we're so inspired by. And the original intention was to get rent a house and potentially stay there for long term. And I flew out before Dani and the kids to scope out towns that we would want to live in so that when they arrived, we could just go right into a town.
Mm-hmm.
But I couldn't find any place that would rent for less than 12 months. And that felt very overwhelming to commit to a year in a town that I know very little about. So by the time they flew out, I didn't have any.
There was no plan.
There was no plan. And
well, he had bought a car, right? You had bought a car at this point.
Yeah.
A little Honda Jazz. And so he had the vehicle that we could land in.
It was very small.
But going to Europe and going on some kind of adventure was one decision, but doing it intentionally to do this song project was another decision, or was it all wrapped up together?
In a way, it's like, now I'm thinking about it, there's two trips that we did. They were both based around collecting songs.
Okay.
This album is including songs from both trips.
From both trips.
I'm going to interrupt for a second, because you said collecting songs. In your bio, a slight detour, sorry.
No.
In your bio, you say song collectors, among other things. Do you consider this a vocation unto itself, collecting songs? Like the world needs people to collect, find, preserve these songs for future generations? Or is it just part of what you're doing as musicians? You don't really think of it big picture.
I think it's both. I think these days with the internet, I think there's so much collecting that's been done that, like the songs that we're playing on this album, I mean, there's a couple obscure ones, but in general, a lot of these have been done.
Yes.
Like a lot, and like a lot of the songs that we found along the way, they've been documented plenty of times, So I do feel like the actual documentation of these old songs in hopes that they won't die out, I think the work's been done.
Yeah.
In general, I mean, perhaps there's still some older folks in very remote parts of Scotland and Ireland that are the kinds of people that don't perform on stages or go sing down at the pub, that are still carrying obscure songs that were sung to them by their grandparents.
Right.
I think that still very much exists.
Yeah.
That's possible. That there are some songs, perhaps, that haven't been documented.
But that was not the intent of this
was not
project.
the intention, but the intention was to learn songs and have the transmission be person to person instead of us just finding songs from recordings.
Okay.
There's a very different...
Yeah, talk about that for a second, about the person to person aspect.
I think for me, for both of us, it's a different relationship to the song. I think it hits home a lot deeper when the transmission of the song from one person to another is done by sitting down and teaching it, and not being able to just rewind a recording and remember writing it down and remembering it. But like one of the songs on this album, Bonnie at Morn, is a song that I learned from a woman who it was sung to her from her mother or grandmother as a lullaby. And we sat on the beach, and I didn't write the lyrics down. I didn't record it. I remembered it because she sat with me for 2 hours.
Right.
And helped me and talked about all the Scots words and what they mean and the history of the song. And for me, I'm much more inspired to want to carry the song with me and sing it, as opposed to not having any relationship with it and finding it on a recording on Spotify or something.
The bird is in the nest, and the truth is in the bone. Thou hindest thy mother at many a turn. Can it need Bonnie at morn? Now's hour lying in thy bed, Bonnie at morn.
So at some point you say to yourselves, we're going to go out and find these songs, meet people who will teach us these songs. That's the mission, right?
Yeah, for sure.
How much of a plan was there beyond that? Like, we're going to go to this city, I'm going to talk to that guy because he might have a song. How does that work?
Wasn't any of that. It was very spontaneous. When we did it, the intention wasn't necessarily to even make an album.
Okay.
This album to me is a product of what we spent the last few years of our life doing just naturally. And it felt like it was time for us to record an album. And because I'd say first and foremost, at least for myself, I'm a songwriter. And Dani is a songwriter as well. But we are I think our songs are so influenced by the folk ballad tradition.
Yes.
And influences who we are as songwriters, that it felt only appropriate for our next album to be a reflection of what we did over the last few years, on going on these travels and meeting all these people. I mean, every song that we've learned was learned. We learned from someone abroad and
In person.
In person, there's one or two in here that aren't, but every other has.
Yeah, I'd like to say that I think it's great to learn from recordings as well, and there's so much, so much goodness in that, and also I love remembering where I was when I heard a song, or music brings us to smells and feelings in places so easily, and it's held in the essence of the song. And when I sing the song, I immediately get brought back to that place.
Yes.
And that's such an incredible feeling. It's like a placeholder, a memory holder that truly brings me to that place as much as I possibly could without actually being there. Yeah. And so every time I sing Bonnie at Morn, I go to the Orkney Islands where we learned that song. Yeah. I remember the faces that were around me and the scene, and I get to feel that. We sang that song to our son when he was born. I remember singing that song to him. I remember all the feelings and the sensations, and and you don't get that as much when you learn from a recording, but I still love to learn from recordings too. And like Ian said, some of these songs are really common songs, yet we have a connection to them because we learned them from this person at this place, and it has a story and it has meaning to us.
Yeah. You mentioned the fact you're both songwriters and here you are doing this project. Let's dig into that a little bit. How you think about this project in terms of your own creative process, right? Is this song discovery and interpretation integrated into your songwriting selves, or do you think of it as two separate things? I write original songs, and sometimes I do this other
Yeah,
thing.
you know, my songwriting, and I think Ian's as well, is very influenced by the sounds of music from Appalachia, Scotland, Ireland, England. And yeah, so for us it was really natural to want to make an ode to, you know, the music that really influences our writing.
Yes.
And we also really love to craft arrangements. We really thrive in that. And so to take a bit of a song and then craft the arrangement is such a process for us.
A creative process.
Major creative process.
Right.
And that's how it works with our original songs. I'll write something that has the structure, the bones. I could perform it solo. I'll bring it to Ian. We'll take it to another place as the duo.
Right.
And he'll have tons of ideas, and we'll create this bridge and this melodic part, and it'll be totally different and
Yes.
not the way we do it as a duo. Perhaps not now a solo song anymore.
Yes.
So it's a total process.
You're describing a parallel process between the two things. One, the bones of the song were yours, and in this case, the bones of the song are the traditional recording. But they end
Exactly.
up going through the same.
The same treatment.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of how we work. In general, one of us brings a song that can be played from start to finish by themselves. It's like
Okay.
it's like the anchor.
Yes.
It's a starting place, and sometimes by the time we bring it to each other, the end expression is quite different
Yeah.
than when it entered the duo.
Yeah.
But
Which is I think, for me, the most fun part. It's
I
so
agree.
incredible to get to bring a song to him, knowing that this whole other sound is going to come out of it, and you know, Ian will choose these really juicy chords, and then all of a sudden the
Juicy.
song just sounds
Yeah.
so different in a way that I would have never had that type of expression, because that's Ian's expression, just, you know, fusing with mine, and
Yeah.
it's so fun, the crafting
Yeah.
of the arrangement of the song, and yeah, just the duo part. It's so fun.
So you have continued your songwriting probably during and after this project
Yeah.
happened. Are there things you can point to that you've taken from the time you spent over there, finding these songs, spending time with them, that have affected your personal songwriting practices?
I just feel like I, through this process, gained a lot of new tools, deepened my understanding of both of the instruments I play, and also my singing has developed in a new way. Just the more I play and the more we create, it's just opening up new doorways.
Yes.
And so I think where I'm at is I feel like I have all these new tools that, like, I could do that for this song.
Right.
Yeah. So it just feels like new doors have been opened and new flavors to choose from.
yeah, I think it's inspired me to just be a little more devastating
Nice.
with my content.
Interesting.
I mean, I'm looking at this list, and it's just like
Like
the
more
themes
murder ballads,
Oh
that
yeah,
kind of
just
thing?
absolutely devastating. The son killing the brother, and the
Right.
mother asking why the blood is all over the one son's shirt, and you know, like, I mean, yeah, there's so many of that are just like beautiful melodies. And then you kind of
So now
Hone in.
you're going places with your writing you might not
yeah,
have gone
maybe there needs to
before.
be more blood in my lyrics.
I'm
you
in
know?
favor of more blood in your lyrics. I'm just going to go on record right now.
I mean, half joking, but also maybe there's something there.
Let's talk about some of these songs on this record. And I want to start with the one that caught my attention at your show the other night. I had to go up and ask you afterwards about the story because there was no time in the 15-minute set to tell the story, but it's a good one. So let's talk about Galway Shawl is the song in question.
Yeah.
So I want to hear the story of this song, Discovery.
We were in southwest Ireland, in County Cork, pretty in a small town out west of West Cork, and we were stopping for gas. We'd played the night before in this town called Ballydehob, And we were on our way out, getting gas. I ran across the street into what looked like a dilapidated hardware store. And it was a hardware store, but what I had found out, it was run by a lady whose husband had died years ago, but she never cleaned up the hardware store. She stopped running it. She never ran it. When her husband died,
All the stuff just sat there.
it just sat there. Everything's covered in dust. It was kind of trippy, actually. But it seemed like over the years, people had like probably bought things like nails and tools. Like there was many things on the shelf, but many things were gone.
Right.
And it was just like it was like a grocery store that still had some things on the shelves,
Right.
you know, and
Some fluff or
the very
another
desirable
from
things were
1973.
gone. Yes. And in the back of the shop, she started a laundromat. There was like 4 washing and drying machines. And we got into talking, and I'd gotten into the rhythm of asking people that I started meeting if they had any songs, or if they knew anyone that sang old ballads. And I was talking with her about that, and she was like, yeah, I do. I have a few. And she started singing Dani. I remember Dani coming in and being like, Ian, what are you doing back here? We're going.
He's already back there recording.
I'm like
a lady.
recording her, you know, and her mom's in the van, our kids. And I'm
Oh, your mom was with you.
yeah, watching the kids, because we were playing some shows that trip as well. And this woman was so kind, and we spent like maybe 45 minutes, and she was forgetting a lot of the lyrics.
Yeah.
And she said, this is inspiring me, and I would love to, can we do this again tomorrow? And we were like, I guess we don't have to be anywhere tomorrow. We were planning on going, but
Yeah, we're about to leave.
we could stay. Yeah, we'll meet you again here tomorrow.
Okay.
She came back prepared. She brought a friend, and we recorded for a couple hours, all kinds of stuff. And then at the end of that, she said, and I am reminded of this woman who lives down the street, Kitty O'Mahony. I'm always forgetting how to pronounce her last name. Kitty O'Mahony. You must meet Kitty. And she gave us directions. The directions were classic Irish directions. You go down, you take a left where the sheep are,
Yes.
and go over the hill. There'll be a green field on the right, and take your third right.
By the
and-
boulder.
You know, it's just,
It's true.
That's it. She called over to Kitty and sent us. They'll be on their way. You know, and there's like all these dirt roads and paved. I'm like, which third? And we did
Yes.
circles for a while. Finally got to Kitty's house, and we were greeted by Kitty and her husband, and they served us pie and tea, and we chatted for like 30 minutes. I think she was feeling us out.
Yeah.
You know, like just 2 Americans collecting songs, like what our purpose was and our intention. And she was like, all right, okay, we're ready. Let's go into the other room. She's
I'm going to sing now.
very, very proper. And you take it from here about how she
Okay.
went about it.
So yeah, she took us into her sitting room, and it was just Ian and I. The kids and my mom stayed in the van, and she sat us down on the couch, and she stood in the middle of the room, and she had her hands together, and she was curly brown hair, very petite, very well dressed woman, and she said, "I'm gonna sing for you now. That I have one rule: you can't look at me while I'm singing."
Oh, wow.
And so I was looking at her feet the whole time, and I remember she was paddling her feet up and down. And
You were recording her, though.
and we recorded her. She
Yes.
said it was okay. So we recorded her, and she sang for us for hours.
Hours?
Hours.
She had so many songs.
Didn't
my
miss a
gosh.
lyric. Knew every melody, and it was totally just unaccompanied singing for hours.
No
Wow.
restarts. She talked about
She
history
knew
of the
everything.
song.
Did you raise your eyes at any point to look at her, or were you looking at the feet
Well,
for the
we
2
could look at
hours?
her when she was talking,
Okay.
just not when she was singing.
Okay.
And
Well,
I guess Ian. So later at the end, I was like, Ian, did you see how she was paddling her feet the whole time? And Ian's like, no. I was like, well, really? And I was like, yeah. I wasn't looking at her. And anyway, I guess Ian didn't hear get the
Oh.
don't look at me
I got the
memo.
whole picture. Yeah,
She
was singing with
got
her eyes closed because
distracted.
I never.
Oh, yeah, so she was singing
Oh,
with her
so
eyes
she
closed.
didn't catch you.
So she didn't
Yeah.
even realize if we were looking at her. But
I just never remembered her saying, "You're not allowed to look at me," but
But this song.
So this song, so we had that really nice time with her, and she was talking to us about how she knew these songs, and she said that they didn't get electricity until the 80s in her life. So there was like radio, and they sang together, and so this was just music that their family would sing together. And
Yes.
she wasn't a pub singer; she didn't perform. But it was later that 2 years later, I think that. Or a year that I looked back into those recordings. You know, we got back from the trip and we were exhausted and like dove into our life, you know.
Right.
And then I was like, I'm gonna check those recordings out. I remember there was that one song that really stood out to me. What was that? And I dug through and listened back, and it was the Galway Shawl that I remember that I really loved of those recordings. And I kept listening to it, and I was singing along and learning, and I kind of was thinking, wouldn't it be cool to sing along to this recording and share this recording with people? Because the recording was perfect. Her pitch, everything was perfect. And her style. It was very... I taught in this Appalachian... at this Appalachian like workshop camp thing for youth. And I did this for them there. I sang this song with the recording. And the folks there... said, this sounds like an Appalachian singer, which I thought was really interesting and cool because she's from Ireland. And it was like, they felt it, right? You know, they said, whoa, like the way, and it's true, like some of her, you know, her subtleties and her specific ornaments have a very clear, it sounds really similar.
Yes.
And, but yeah,
So you made the decision in this album to include her voice as the introductory part of this song.
Yes,
right?
the only way we do this song is always with Kitty starting it out, and then we play along to it and tell her story.
It's fast. I saw you do it the other night, holding the phone up with the recording at the intro to the song, and it's very moving to see.
Yeah,
we won't do it without her.
Yeah,
no, we won't.
Seriously,
and we're gonna see her this summer.
Oh, great!
We're playing in the same town.
Ballydahab. Yeah, so I wrote her.
You have a gig in her
we
town.
Do. Yep, in her town.
Is she going to come?
I hope so.
You going to tell her not to look at you while you're singing?
No. I was thinking it'd be cool to do it together and live. But
get her to sing with you.
Get her to come out.
Wouldn't that be something?
Yeah.
I had to track her down to even ask permission because we started doing this live, and we did it a bunch of times, and folks really loved it. And I was like, I should ask her. I should reach out and make sure she's cool with this.
Yes.
And then we also realized we wanted to record it too. And so I didn't know how to get a hold of her. And I found an email of someone who lived in that town.
Next to the rock by the field.
Yeah. Anyway, I described this lady as we met this lady, we recorded a song, she has brown hair, and like it was a really vague description. And he goes, oh, that's Kitty O'Mahony. He gave me her address, and I wrote her a letter. Wow. And I thought, this is my one chance, you know, to make a good impression and just be like, hey, can we use your song? Can we record it? Is this okay with you?
And you stood by the mailbox waiting for her response, right?
Yeah, I was nervous. And I wrote an 8-page letter talking about her life. And I was like, look, we're folk musicians. We're not going to make any money. like it's not about that. And she wrote back a sweet letter. And she's like, of course, use it however you want.
Oh, that's a great part of the story.
It's one of those things, right? We'd become almost attached to, like, we couldn't imagine recording this song without her at this point because we had been performing it with her, and it just felt like without that it wouldn't be appropriate. Like it was birthed from her.
What a great
participating with her.
What a great story.
You can just introduce the song.
My next song is The Galway Shawl. Here are and more in the county Galway, one pleasant evening in the month of May, I spied an damsel, she was fair and handsome, her beauty fairly took my breath away. She wore no jewels, no costly diamonds, no paint nor
with a ribbon on it and around her shoulder wore the Galway shawl. We kept on walking.
Let's talk about another one. Took note of the song Pretty Polly.
Yeah.
There's a Woody Guthrie involvement here. Can you talk about your version of this song and how it came about?
Yeah, so that one I brought to the table as originally, I started working on the banjo, and I really liked Pretty Polly and some of the different Appalachian versions of it and lyrics, and I was researching. There's lots of different lyrics, and there's actually a few different melodies as well to that one. And I knew of Woody Guthrie's song called Pastures of Plenty, and I loved the melody of that. I had noticed, and then I realized it was the same melody.
Okay.
That Woody Guthrie took the melody Pretty Polly and then he wrote his own lyrics to it, which a lot of folk singers have done. And then it made me think, ooh, wouldn't it be interesting to take some of the story, Woody Guthrie's story, and merge it with the Pretty Polly ballad and create a new story?
Yeah.
And so I took the beat, somewhat of the beginning of the Pretty Polly story, because in the Pretty Polly, these two fall in love and they make a baby, and then the Willie freaks out and decides to like take her into the woods and kill her.
Sure.
And then he goes off to sea, and then she haunts them, and there's lots of different subtle versions, but that's the basics.
Yes.
But Woody Guthrie has all this like beautiful imagery and all, his whole story about like dignity of migrant workers, and so different, just the energy of that.
Yes.
And I thought, ooh, like I'm gonna change the ending and have Willie be like own up to what he did, own up to this woman, and
it's a redemption story,
and bring her in, and have this good integrity and just feel solid and decide to go for it. And so he takes her out into the woods, and in the moment he drops the dagger and says, let's go, and we're gonna dig beets, and we're gonna work the land, and we're gonna raise this baby, and we're gonna tend the land for the future generations, which is our child and beyond.
Okay, this is a good place to bring up a question I have. Can you talk about your place, or maybe more generally the place of contemporary songwriters in the traditional, say, folk music landscape? So how do you see writing new songs taking their place in this tradition of music where songs are handed down?
Yeah, I think it's about creating stories that are relevant to our modern culture. To be, there's two ways to go about it, and there's probably infinite ways to go about it, but
otherwise I wouldn't have a job.
I think of two. One being, that's very true. One being to write songs as if they sound like a traditional song.
Right.
Utilizing terminology and vocabulary from an older time, and trying to create that song that sounds like it came from 1900. And I think that comes from specifically in the content in the story. And then there's writing songs that are based upon the culture that exists now, but could still sonically have the flair of an old ballad.
Mm-hmm.
And
both equally valid approaches. And I think with our project as fellow Pynins, I think we tend to, in our own songwriting for this project, tend to write songs that perhaps sound like they could be from a different time, and utilizing that almost like just borrowing melodies, and it just feels like taking pieces. It's like a collage. Our songs feel like collages of songs that we've learned and been exposed to, and then mixing up lyrics and stories, and it all kind of just feels like the same song. All the guts just rearranged and presented in a new way. Yeah.
And like in these songs, even as in new songs.
Kind of bridges to Son David a bit, I think.
Yeah, let's talk about the song Son David then.
Yeah, Son David, I would say I think it's the oldest song that we know of, I think, on this album.
Okay.
I think that it was the first documented version was like mid-1700s.
Okay.
But as a lot of these, and specifically that one, Son David is Child Ballad 13, I believe. It's a very old one.
Wait, say that again?
It's Child Ballad 13, so there's these child ballads, right, that are ballads collected by a man, Sir Francis Child.
Okay.
And yeah, it was, like the Grimms. They weren't writing the stories. They were just collecting them and documenting them, putting them in writing for the first time.
Okay.
And traveling around the country and going to remote places just to collect these songs.
Yep.
And Son David is one of the oldest ones that he collected, and they think that it was sung for hundreds of years before it was collected. I mean, who really knows,
Right.
I mean, it's just beautiful to think of the ambiguity of these songs and how much they've changed, and a traveler passing through a town and learned a new song but couldn't remember any verses besides verse 2 and 3 and filled in all the blanks. Maybe the singer couldn't hit the high register, so changed the melody.
Right.
And they just morph.
The happenstance of history, yes.
Yeah, it's inevitable how they just evolve. And
So how did you find this one?
Son David, I think the first time I heard it was from a duo which are friends of ours now, called the Brothers Gillespie from Northumberland,
Okay.
in northern England. Beautiful song interpreters and songwriters themselves. And they have a version of this. It's much more, it's a cappella, I think, the way they do it. Yeah, two brothers. Beautiful. It's about this man comes home and the mother's like, "What is all this blood all over you?" And he lies a few times and said, "It's the blood of my greyhound." And then the mom's like, "No, it's too red, too thick or something to be from your hound. Where is this blood from?" He says, "It's from my horse." And she's like, "No, it's not that." And then he finally fesses up and says, I killed my brother because my brother attacked me. The younger brother attacked the older brother because the older brother, I think, was getting the estate or something.
Okay.
And the younger brother wanted to kill him, and the older brother ended up killing him because of self-defense or something, and he was so in pain from what just happened that it ends with, I'm sailing away on a bottomless boat, and I'll return when the sun and the moon meet in yon glen, which will never happen.
Right.
He's going away. He's going to perhaps, it could be interpreted many ways. But he's going away probably to take his own life because he's in so much pain from what happened. Yeah, this song has got, 13, many different renditions, even in the child ballad.
So what did you do with it?
Yeah, so we changed it extremely. In general, with all these songs, we haven't changed the melody.
Okay.
So a lot of these songs are probably sung a cappella. We haven't changed any of the melodies, so they would be sung similarly without the adornment of a harmony or backing chords of a guitar. We've retained the melody as it's commonly known these days. But when you add a harmony, and depending on the chords that we choose, it just changes the feel completely. Mm-hmm. And that's something that we really love to do, is that process, is keeping a melody as we've known it, but choosing different notes to harmonize with vocally and choosing different chords just completely changes the color of it. And this one specifically, we probably removed, I think we only sing 3 verses.
Out of the 13 plus.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
13
We
to
really
20.
pared this one down.
Wow.
To 3 verses, and this one is very much about the instrumental arrangement. It starts with 2 verses. She sings the first verse from the mother's perspective. She's the mother, and I am the son, answering, and then we sing the third in harmony. And we are a duo and we perform and tour as a duo. But this album does have quite a bit of additional instrumentation from friends of ours from around the United States and Europe.
Okay.
And this one specifically got extra attention on the arrangement. There's 3 musician friends of ours based in Brooklyn, all jazz Berkeley musicians. Okay. And yeah, this one has upright bass, violin, trumpet, trombone, set drums, and some extra production work even to make some strange tones.
Very subtle.
And this is so this one was particularly fun to arrange because we knew we wanted to give it extra ornaments.
We've been at this a little while. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I want to ask you one, maybe 2 more questions, but maybe then get you to play a song for us from the record. We've talked earlier before we were recording about your lifestyle, and you alluded to this. You two live off the grid in tiny houses in Oregon, right? Mm-hmm. So do you feel that leading an intentional, simple life integrates into the creative process for you? Is it part of, do you think, as part of your lifestyle influencing your creative process?
Absolutely. For me, I've always known that I thrive having time traveling and connecting with people, and that's touring really does that for me. Playing shows, being in towns, cities, interacting a lot, gathering new information, learning new songs, getting book and movie recommendations, just all sorts of, it's like the exchanges are happening. And I'm offering whatever it is I'm offering. And then to go back to a quiet place where I don't have that, where I can integrate what I learn, study, practice, create new songs, create something that I feel like I have something new to offer next time I go out into the world.
Right.
It's kind of these two extremes that balance each other out. And I thrive in both places, but only if I have both.
Yes.
Equally.
Yeah. I find it interesting because some people say, oh, I'm an introvert or I'm an extrovert, and very few people are one or the other. And I think it is helpful, like you say, when we acknowledge that we most of us need both of those things, but it sounds like are self-aware enough to be able to use that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we are both introverts and extroverts, just to varying degrees.
Right.
Some need more alone time to fill up the reservoir than others, but we all need some alone time. Maybe it's just a teeny bit, but some people just love to be around people all the time.
I may need some alone time after this weekend.
Oh my God, I know. So I was just thinking that. I was like, almost everyone is playing guitar and singing. And I was just like, I think it is brilliant how it's like cooking with only 2 ingredients. Like you're only cooking with butter and noodles, and how there's so many different end products of song and expressions with just the same a human voice and a 6-string guitar. Yeah. And just what we do with that. It is just inspiring how there's so many different ways to interpret that.
I'm going to leave it there for right now. I've really enjoyed this conversation, and I'm so glad that the universe brought us together today, right?
Mike, the feeling is mutual.
Yeah. I'm going to try and see your show tonight, but I encourage everyone, you're all going to be out there touring behind this record a little bit. I encourage people to go to your website and find out when you will be in a town near them, because it's quite an experience to see you play live. I can't recommend it enough.
Thank you.
Let's see if we can get a song together that, if it works, it'll be part of this episode.
Lovely.
And
let's nail it.
We'll see what happens.
Great.
Sweet. What do you want to play?
Go for it, play it.
It's called Pretty Polly. It's a mighty hard road that my poor hands have hold. My poor feet have tread a hard and dusty road. Deserts were hot in your mountains were cold. Pretty Polly, the name of your soul. I'm under body and then it grew to speed. They call her Pretty Polly. Oh, you that she's there. Rings on the fingers of it. I worked in your orchards with peaches and things. I slept on the ground in the light of the moon, on the edge of the city, singing. Oh, come with the dust and I'll go with the wind. Pretty Polly, come along with me. Before we get married and I'll go off to sea. Oh, really, I'm afraid of you. But I look in your eye away, then be straight. Pastures aplenty from dry desert groves. St. William cried out and he threw his dagger down. And you will take beets and good grapes from the vine. You will bring in this day that I love you as my wife. It's always we ramble, that Polly and I, all along your green valley. I'll work till I die. This land will defend with earth it will be. 'Cause I'll be in these pastures of plenty.